I stood in the family room of the home I'd helped preserve 3 times. First, when my father underwent spinal surgery and couldn't earn for months. Then, during the pandemic, when my parents' retirement savings plummeted in the stock market. And last spring, when the heating system failed just before a freeze, and I sent the full payment to the repair company before they even reached out. That day, though, I wasn't there to solve a crisis. I was just assisting Dad with scanning documents for their medical insurance. It was a task I handled often. My dad, Harold, never mastered the printer-scanner duo, even after a decade. He always said I had a knack for tech, though I've been in project management, not tech support, for over 10 years. He'd left a pile of papers on the kitchen table. I sorted through them swiftly. Health records, some insurance forms, a couple of utility statements. Then I spotted it. A beige folder heavy. Tidy handwriting in my mom's script labeled it, Estate Plan, Final Version. I shouldn't have looked, I knew that. But I just covered their property taxes the previous week. $2,178,441. I was also planning to stop by the pharmacy later to grab their cholesterol meds, as I always did. So yes, I opened it. Inside was their will notarized 2 months prior, the house fully paid off, their remaining investments, a life insurance policy. Everything went to my brother, Ethan Brooks, 29, unemployed. Still living at home. He'd abandoned college twice. Chased a music dream for a few years, which mostly meant tinkering in the garage and uploading videos that never hit 200 views. My parents always said he was still searching for his purpose. My name, Lauren Brooks, appeared once. One sentence: we cherish both our children equally and trust them to support each other. That was all. No mention of the taxes I'd paid. No note about the savings I'd sent without prompting. Not even a nod of gratitude, just a subtle way of saying, you're fine and we owe you nothing. I didn't speak at first. Just stood there staring at the document while the scanner whirred softly nearby. My hands stayed calm. My breathing didn't. Dad returned with his tea and said, "You making progress on those papers, Laurie?" I lifted the folder. "Is this how it works, Dad?" I asked, voice low. "Everything to Ethan." He stopped, tea halfway to his mouth. Then he let out a long, weary sigh, the kind that meant he knew exactly what I'd found. "It's not what it seems." I didn't respond, because it was exactly what it seemed. I didn't push him, not yet. Dad just stood there, clutching his tea like it might clarify things. Then he muttered, "We thought you'd get it." "You're doing fine, Lauren. You've always done fine." That's what they said when they didn't want to justify anything. "You've always done fine," meaning you don't get to ask for more. I left the folder on the table and stepped outside to breathe. The porch bench squeaked as I sat. I'd replaced that bench myself 2 summers back, the same week the deck's railing broke, and I hired a crew to fix it because Ethan claimed he was short on cash again. Back then, I didn't care. I was raised to handle things, to step in. I grew up in this house. Shared a bedroom with Ethan until I was 13 when Dad finally built out the basement. I still recall the day we painted those walls green, Dad, Ethan, and me. Mom brought iced tea and said, "What a great crew we are." Some crew. I stayed in Nashville after college because Mom said she couldn't rest if I was too far. I passed on a job in Chicago, even though it offered better pay and a quicker path to a corner office. I told myself family came first. They never demanded I give things up. They just never said I didn't have to. There were small things, covering their car insurance when they were tight, buying groceries when their benefits were delayed, sorting out late fees with the bank. And bigger things, like transferring $11,000 from my savings 4 years ago to cover their mortgage. I did it without hesitation. I just wanted them to feel secure, safe, unworried. And now, after all that, I was a footnote. I sat on that porch bench, staring at the old maple tree across the lawn. Ethan had carved his initials into it once. EB+LR for some girl from his second high school. I wondered if he ever chipped in to have that tree pruned. I wondered if he even knew it cost $800 last year after a storm nearly cracked it in half. Did they ever consider what I gave up? Not just money, but the calm, the freedom, the life I could have built elsewhere. Or did they just see me as the one who didn't need asking because I always showed up first? I didn't go back inside. The porch bench creaked once under me, then went still. I could hear the scanners hum through the screen door. A few minutes later, Mom stepped out. She wore the same gray sweater she always put on when she had something heavy to say. The one from the Christmas I gave her a gift card and Ethan gave her a mixtape. She said she loved both. She didn't sit at first, just stood there, twisting the edge of her sleeve. "Lauren," she said, not too gentle, not too sharp. I didn't look up. She sat beside me anyway. We didn't mean for you to find out this way. I nodded once. I wasn't going to fill the quiet for her. She let out a breath, not quite a sigh, just a release. It's not that we don't love you. I said nothing, because what's love that forgets your name when it's inconvenient? She reached over, placing her hand on mine. Her touch was warm, slightly unsteady. Ethan's had a tougher road. You're solid, Lauren. You always have been? Solid, capable, dependable. Words that sound kind until you realize they're chains. Labels that let people take from you without remorse. I pulled my hand away. You could have told me, I said. My voice was steady, quiet. You could have asked. She looked away toward the lawn, and then she said it, softly, as if whispering made it lighter. We had to caution for Ethan. He needed the support. The words landed like a nudge, not a strike. But I heard everything in her tone. They didn't just cut me out of the will. They'd already tied themselves to him with real money, real debt, real stakes. How much? I asked, no answer. Mom, how much? Still silence. Then barely audible, 35. I stood. The breeze picked up. The old wind chime above the porch clinked once, then stilled. I looked at her, not angry, just drained. You didn't choose him because he needed it. You chose him because you already owed him. Her eyes widened, but I wasn't waiting for a reply. I just didn't know the price included erasing me. I didn't text. I didn't call. I just stopped. That week I canceled the auto-pay I'd set for their utility bills. I removed the reminder to reorder their prescriptions. I paused the grocery delivery that arrived every Thursday at 3. Nothing loud, no big statement. Just a quiet absence where I used to be. I thought they'd notice immediately, but a week passed. Nothing. By the second week the messages started. Dad texted first. Electric bills higher this month. Can you check the account? I didn't reply. Then Mom, we're out of those whole grain crackers you always get. Ethan forgot. I left it unread. They weren't worried, not yet. They assumed I was swamped, or upset, or tired from work. Maybe they thought I needed space. Maybe they thought I'd return, as always. By the third week, the tone shifted. Lauren, Mom wrote, the mortgage is due. Can you send what you usually do? No greeting, no question about me. Just a line, a number, a need. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed, ask Ethan, it's his house now. I hit send, didn't wait. 5 minutes later, she called. I let it ring. Another text, please don't do this. We need to talk. But there was nothing to say. They'd made their choice. I was just finally acting like it mattered. That evening, Ethan weighed in. Laurie, don't blow this out of proportion. Just help them like always. Like always. Like habit, like instinct, like I was just reliable background noise. I wrote back, you're the one they picked, Ethan, so be the one. He didn't respond. The next morning, I got a transfer request from Mom. $3,200. The exact amount of the overdue mortgage and fees. No message, no note, just the number. I declined it. A minute later, the phone rang again, then a text. We could lose the house if you don't help. And from Dad, you'd let your parents end up on the street? I almost smiled. They weren't homeless. They were just uneasy. For the first time, they were feeling what I'd carried, quietly, without asking. I turned off my phone. They didn't lose me when they wrote me out of the will. They lost me when they assumed I'd keep giving anyway. A week of silence followed after I declined the transfer. No calls, no texts. It was the quietest they'd been in years, and somehow that felt louder than the pleading. I started sleeping better, waking without checking my phone, cooking for myself, no one else. But silence never lasts with my family. Not when there's blame to spread. The first hint was a voicemail from Aunt Clara. She rarely called, always said she stayed out of family drama. But that morning her message said, I'm not picking sides, sweetie, but your mom's beside herself. Maybe just talk to them. That's when I knew they'd started talking. To others, I checked Facebook. It didn't take long. A photo of the front porch. A caption. We gave everything to our kids, but sometimes giving isn't enough. Dozens of likes. A few sympathetic comments. One from Ethan. Some people think family's about money. They forget it's about being there. I closed the app, not angry. Just empty. They weren't just disappointed. They were reshaping the narrative, turning me from provider to villain because I'd stopped showing up to be used. The next afternoon, an envelope arrived at my apartment. Plain. No sender's address. Inside, a foreclosure notice. A copy not addressed to me, but I recognized the house number. I sat with it for a moment, stared at the paper, then flipped it over and wrote, maybe you should have left it to someone who could handle it. I didn't mail it. Instead, I checked the county website. Their property was listed as at risk. Behind on payments, no cushion left. They'd burned through the savings. Probably trying to keep up appearances, maybe hoping I'd fold before it got serious. Ethan had spent it all. Everything they'd left him for security, for stability, for his future. Gone. There was a time I'd have stepped in. Called the bank, arranged a deferment, shifted funds. But now I poured myself a glass of water, sat at the kitchen table, and let the house slip without me. Sometimes you don't need to start the fire, you just stop carrying the bucket. It began subtly. A vague post from Mom with a daisy emoji, a photo of her and Dad smiling on the porch. We raised them with love, we did our best, but sometimes love isn't enough. No names, no direct accusations, but I knew. So did anyone who knew us. Aunt Ellen commented, "You two are such wonderful parents, you deserve better." Dad followed a day later, less subtle. "We gave everything to our kids, time, money, love. We thought we raised them right. But you can't control who walks away." He tagged me, no call, no text, just a post for the world to see. I didn't reply, I watched it spread. Dozens of likes. Old family friends chiming in, some I hadn't seen since middle school. One wrote, "This generation doesn't get sacrifice." And then Ethan. Of course, Ethan. He shared Dad's post with his own caption. "Some people only care when they're getting something. I'd do anything to protect Mom and Dad. Not everyone values family like that." I read it twice, then once more. The same man who hadn't paid rent in years, who drained every cent they had, who watched the house crumble, was casting himself as the hero. The comments were worse. "You're such a good son. Your sister should be ashamed." They gave her everything. She just wanted more. They didn't know the tea. Thank you for watching Story. Please subscribe and hit the notification bell for more real-life stories.